Alright, I've started the recording. Yay.
Awesome. Can you see Blender?
Indeed I can.
Awesome.
Indeed
Okay.
I can.
All right. We are not starting in Blender, by the way.
Alright.
Okay. But you should be able to see that screen, which is what I need you to be able to do. Oh, I hate it when it does that.
You go directly across. It's that right there.
You learned something new. That's what I want to see. Okay, cool beans. Okay. A couple of people online. We got a video going here. We got people here. All right, let's give it a few more minutes and then we will get started. Okay, and so we will not finish character modeling today. I'm just pointing that out. If I, as your instructor, were doing character modeling, it takes me 8 hours to do a full model.
No.
Okay, from start to finish. So we're gonna.
K-pop choreo in an hour last night. It wasn't very pleasant. I can't do it at all.
So today we're gonna start. I'm gonna talk to you how to start your character model, and we're gonna start with the basics of the main body build, and then you guys can flourish from there with practice. Okay. But I do have some tips and tricks about bodybuilding that most people will not teach you, but I will teach you today. So there is almost no difference between Blender and Maya or Max, depending upon which software you're using. It all comes down to keyboard shortcuts. It really does, and naming conventions. The big difference between the three is Maya does not do modular modeling. Or, sorry, not modular, modifying modeling. Okay, which means they removed all of their modifiers and have made them into tools for the few that they kept. Makes life a little bit harder. I will show you a whole bunch of modifiers today. We're actually going to be using a couple of them in Blender today while we're doing our character modeling. But basically what I'm teaching you can be done in all three, no matter what software you're using. All the tools are always there and available. You just have to do some things at a different time frame from others in different software. And I'll let you know what those are when we get to them. Otherwise, we get to do character modeling today. Yay! How many people are excited for characters?
I
Cool
am
beans.
very excited for characters.
I love the sarcasm, David.
No, I am absolutely excited for characters. I'm just thrilled about it.
I am very sarcastic about it, though. I'm an environment artist, truthfully. I love flow poly. I can do characters. I don't care for characters. They're not my cup of tea.
Although environmental storytelling doesn't get much better.
Oh, I love jump puzzles. So love jump puzzles. I miss Guild Wars.
Jigsaw puzzle? Hey, jigsaw puzzle?
The original or two?
2 was the one I played the most. I did watch playthrough of the first one. I was like, but no, I played 2.
The jigsaw puzzle?
Jump puzzles. A jump puzzle is
Oh, platforms?
it's like that, but in most jump puzzles,
Like in Roblox, Obi. You know what that is.
most jump puzzles that I'm talking about happen in MMOs in a 3D environment. They're a extra quest that aren't necessarily required. But yes, Mario would be and platformers would be the 2D equivalent.
Remember the tower in Fugate Tower in Final Fantasy 14.
Yes.
Literally used to speedrun that.
Yes.
Isn't there like the CSGO, like they have this rank thing? I've seen people like make a bunch of gameplay.
Very different. It's very different.
Really? So I'm not talking about that.
That's like
It's
a
surfing.
game tech.
Is it called surfing? Knife surfing? CSGO.
Yeah.
CSGO.
All right, so let's get started. It's 12:10. We've given people time to join us. If they come in, they come in. They don't, they don't. So let's get started with the design portion of character development. Okay, so designing a character and modeling a character are two very different aspects. Usually what I find when I go to design a character, my story, the world I'm in, the genre of game I'm playing, the type of game I'm playing, and those are two different things, determine what my character is going to be and look like. Okay? When I first start working with a character for a game, my first questions are, what genre? Sci-fi, fantasy, romance, whatever it is. What's my polygon type? Is it high poly, low poly, mid poly, flat, 2D, 3D, the whole 9 yards? I need to know all of this information. I don't even know if the character is male or female at this point. I need information behind the character, its background. Okay. Then I need to know what the character is for. Is this my main character? My player? Or am I making some NPCs? Okay. This also changes a lot of things of how you're going to do and determine your character. Okay. So say we're doing a sci-fi pirate, 3D, low poly, main character. And again, I'm not asking male or female yet. I'm just getting backstory here. Okay, main character. My next kind of question is going to be male or female. That's as far, I have to get through all of that before I can ask male or female. Or male, female, or animal, or rock. Amorphous blob, slime.
You draw out your models.
I try to, but I am a huge proponent of stick figure humans.
So how do you design your humans?
I use those good old things called AI tools if I need help with my humans. Otherwise, I usually draw a stick figure with a whole bunch of fake stick figure clothes on them, so I know where I'm going. Okay, I will get into the use of concept art here in a second. I am not a 2D artist by any means. Unless you want me to draw you a building, buildings I can draw with great detail and great design. Yes, that's the reason why I work well with environments. Humans are round. They are round and spherical and have weird shapes and odd shading. I cannot do that. It is not in my wheel set. If I practice for many years, I might be able to. But that's a lot of years I could be working on, vehicles and environments and rocks, which I have more fun with. So I use AI tools if I'm going to be making a character, and I go very specific into my AI tools like Midjourney or Copilot, and I tell them a type of character I want. I go into my art style that I need to look into if I have an idea of what my art style is, which is my next question on my list here for when I design my character. And no names, barely got gender, but I'm working on everything in the background. So what art style am I working on? Is it going to be Ghibli? Is it going to be anime? Those are different. They have very different looks to them. Is it going to be horror? And I need to have it a bloody, and it's going to be dark horror. Is it light horror? There's a very difference there too. Am I historical fantasy? Am I historical realistic or historical non-realistic? High fantasy, sci-fi, is that Star Trek or is that Star Wars? Very different dichotomies here. So at this point, when I'm designing my character, I'm really gathering the background information and going from there. Once I have all of that decided, either I decide it or I'm working with a team and we decide it, okay? That part is the hard part. The actual character in and of itself will build itself out of that. I have always found the character just pops into existence out of having that information, okay? If it's going to be a sci-fi pirate story, magically, I have a pirate captain with an astronaut's helmet. Out of nowhere, but looks cool. All right? Be that a male or female, or could be a dog, could be a cat, could be a bird, could be a rock. It doesn't matter at that point. I really don't care about that. That's just the final look of things. So say we're doing a human. All right, and most characters are humanoid of some form or fashion. Humans are symmetrical-ish. I'm going to say ish because this is a really important thing. Human bodies are not fully symmetrical. We look it from a distance, we are symmetrical. One arm, one leg, half a face. We look very symmetrical. But the human body is actually off on one side to the other, from one arm to the next, for hands, from your fingers, by millimeters. And we as humans are trained to see that in our eyes, which is the reason why characters look fake when they're made in 3D. Even if they are fully symmetrical, we can tell right away they're not real. Okay? It's the reason why AI characters are really those nice 3D models they make. Oh, they're creepy. And they're creepy because they're perfectly symmetrical. Yes! Okay? Now, this is a great thing for us as 3D modelers because we want that. We want to work with that symmetricality. And when you're working in a game, depending upon what you're doing in that game, if it's low poly, symmetrical is perfect. Okay? Less work for you to do. If it's a high poly, high res, a Final Fantasy feature or a full-on Pixar movie, that's where things get a little trickier at the end. And you have to add the asymmetricity to it after the fact. So you have to pay attention to that little nuance. So Pixar movies that are getting really close to the ones where they really do try, let's take Avatar. Let's not take Pixar. Let's take Avatar, the Avatar movies. You know how they're really realistic? Mm-hmm. What they have done is all of those character models are made in symmetrical. And then after they are completed, they're asymmetrical. What they do is they do the symmetry first, they get it all made, and then they go through and they move things very minutely on one side for the other. Move the arm. One arm is just a little bit shorter than the last one. Okay, one side of the face is shifted up just a millimeter. Not even a full, it's just like eek, pixel. 1 pixel, that's all you need. Okay, and it changes the look of the character to make them more realistic. Okay, when you do a 3D scan of your body using any of the great many 3D scanning tools out there, you will notice your body kind of goes like this in the 3D scanner. And that's because, I'm sorry, you guys can't see me. Or can you? Can you see me? No.
If they see my profile, then
Okay, right, there we go. Now you can see me. So,
It's
in it. It's loading. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I gotta allow it. There we go. There we go. Haha, there we go.
Okay. Yeah, I can see now.
Yes, I talk a lot with my hands, so it's probably better I turn that on. Okay, but if you look at those kinds of 3D scans, your face tends to look a little off going up and down and left and right. So your eyes are never in line perfectly. Your lips look a little skewed. That's on purpose. Your body is actually that way. We just see it as natural. It's just hard to see it in the computer because we're so used to them being unnatural. All right, so that's all fun and good. So let's talk about ways to help you get to the actual modeling of a character. Say you are just practicing. You just want to make a character. You want to just make a humanoid of some form. I suggest going on Google, and we're going to do this together real quickly, finding a character turnaround and just making it. Find one you like. There are some requirements for good character turnaround. So let me put that in here. A character turnaround, by the way, is a drawing tool. Ooh, okay. Yeah, it's a drawing tool where a 2D artist will create a character in multiple views to get a good look at him and of their 2D character. So you'll often see them like this. There's these ones where you can see front, back, and side. Yeah. So turnarounds are a great tool for a 2D artist to have in their tool belt. And I love a good 2D artist. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I have never met a 2D artist who have done a perfect turnaround.
They're hard.
Huh?
They're hard to make.
They are very hard to make. And it's nigh on impossible to get the feet right, which is where most of the time it goes wrong. Okay, because the perspective on the feet is weird when you do a turnaround. You got this weird up angle here and the straight, and then this one is higher than these. Yeah.
Well, that's because the perspective of that character. One is going slightly down, like he's slightly angled, so it's going to be kind of impossible to actually figure that out.
Yes. And it is
Made it flat on, would work.
It's really hard to do a character turnaround imperfect. But you do the best you can, and that's important. As a 3D modeler, I need to know if I'm using a character turnaround, it's never going to be perfect. I just have to account for that, which is the reason why I'm going to make this statement. If you wish to be a character modeler or a character artist in a 3D format, you need to take anatomy. You need to take a human anatomy class, animal anatomy classes. This is super important because when we make what we make with the 3D is the skin on top of the muscles, the bones, and everything. Okay, we're just making the skin of the person. If we don't account for those muscles and bones underneath the character, it's going to look off, even further than from the uncanny valley. Okay, so we want to make sure if that's where you go, I suggest you always take an anatomy class. Or read a really good anatomy textbook because they go in depth about how that works. All right, so these are good character turnarounds. I'm going to talk about something really important that you need to notice about these character turnarounds. Arm placement. Okay, this is important for when you're actually doing a modeling. I despise modeling in end pose. End pose. End pose is with the arms down at the side, but not attached to the side. They're pointed out. I prefer a T-pose arm placement. But most character turnarounds are in end pose, about 90% of them. You might find one or two here or there as you go through with a full T-pose. More often than not, you're not going to have that. So arms are always going to be extra work. Just know that off the bat. Working with things in an angle is always extra work. Okay. If you know that, you're good. You understand the process there. Okay. So these are just turnarounds. I just Googled character turnarounds. Let's see if I can find a good T-pose here. T-pose. Okay, there we go. So this is a T-pose character. This is a character who with her arms straight out. This is the perfect type of character turnaround to use for a 3D model. Okay. And in fact, I think that's what this person was doing. Yeah, because they were doing an animator. So yeah, this is a perfect T-pose here. This is an okay T-pose. Now, notice when you get into characters, you're going to see naked characters and you're going to see clothed characters. This is the next question you're going to come into. Is your game going to have a changing of clothes? Okay, so avatar system, armoring system, are your characters going to change their clothes? You need to know this right up front. If they are going to change their clothes, you need to model them naked. If they are not going to be changing their clothes, you need to model them in their clothes, which looks weirder. It looks extremely weird because the clothes take up space and it gives bulk where normally there is not bulk. Okay, it looks very strange, but it's doable.
The only problem is I'll stop modeling inside my house a naked person. My family thinks I'm crazy.
Everyone thinks you're crazy.
So I have to model by myself.
But please be aware that when we model male characters, they are Ken dolls. They are dolls without any physical lower body genitalia. There we go. I said it. We're adults here. We're adults here. And when we model female characters, we usually don't go full detail. Yes. So we model Barbies and Kens. We don't model real people. Okay. So I'm going to come in here. Let's see if there's any good ones. I'm just going to snag a character model. That would be an interesting one, but not showing you what I need to show you today. Let's see. Let's find a good turnaround. There's no good T-poses here. There we go. That technically works. That one works. That's a good T-pose. Okay, so when I'm looking for a good character turnaround, there are two poses I have to have.
Have a good day.
Have a good one. So, okay, so two poses I have to have. I have to have a full front and a full side, flat. No changes, nothing. Okay, so you need to have that on there. It gives you the best chance you have for creating your character model. So this is a full front. This is a full side. The back, the angled sides, great to have, not exactly necessary. So I'm going to steal this one. As oh no, it's going to be a little pain in the butt. That's okay. I think it's just this guy. I'm going to snag this image. Okay. If you do this, by the way, if you are grabbing images like this, these are not for resale. This is just for practice. Okay. I'm not using this image to make models in a game. This is just for practice. Okay. So I'm going to save this to my desktop. And I'm going to call this turn. Okay. So that's my turnaround. All right. So I now have an image. I have an idea of where I'm starting. My character is semi-female. I think that's what I grabbed. Semi-female. It's a flat, so it's a robot. But close enough. It's a humanoid I can do some modeling with and I can get things started. So I'm going to start in Blender. Okay, so here we go. We are in Blender. First thing you're going to do in Blender is you're going to name your cube person. Or the character's name, something. Always name your model before you start working on it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off my light and my camera so I don't need them. That's these two guys right here. And I'm going to add a image plane reference. Thank you. Image reference. And this is going to be that lovely desktop turn image I added. Here we go. So there's that guy. Now you'll notice when I turn my screen here. Come on. Oops, hold on. Here we go. Turn my screen. My image is in the wrong perspective here. It is totally wonkified. Okay. That's because I was just when you add a reference image, it goes straight to your camera view, which is not a problem here because all I need to do is open up this guy and I'm just going to set my rotation all to 0. And 0. So that was a little caret here in the corner. You can reach that by hitting the N mode or the N key. Wait, let me double check. Yeah, is it N? Yeah, it's the N key. Sorry, I have to go through multiple shortcut keys here. Between the two?
Like how many shortcuts do they have?
Hundreds. The problem isn't that if Blender has it. The problem is if Blender and Maya have it and they are two different shortcuts, which they often are. Okay. So I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to rotate him. Let's see. Z is up. Y is to the left. Let's go rotate him on the X 90 degrees. Okay. So that's around the X axis here. And then I'm going to rotate him on the Y 90 degrees. There we go. And then I'm just going to go to a flat viewport. Sorry, wrong key. I'm going to go flat here. I'm going to take this guy and I'm just doing some basic prelim. This is how I like to do this. I'm going to bring this up so that my line ends up with the green here. So that's pretty much flat on. Okay, cool beans. And I'm going to bring this way. Now, I'm just doing prep work. And for me, this is how I prep. I'm going to work with this image before I do anything with that cube. Okay. And one of the things I'm going to do is actually hide the cube real quickly. And rename this turnaround front. I know that's what I want this image to be. I'm going to edit this image. So I like to, when I go into edit mode, I like to go into the actual workspace. So the top of the screen for Blender, you have tabs. If you go to modeling, that's your edit mode. Okay, and sometimes it works right away, sometimes it doesn't. Oh, it's not going to work with this one. I forgot. Let's see. No, it's not going to work with this one, and that's okay. I will just have to work with what I've got. Usually what I do, instead of making a reference image, I do a background, or I do a plane, and then I can do some quick things like adding a line here, an edge line, that will allow for me to get things perfect. But this is as close as it's going to get. I'm going to duplicate this guy, Shift D, right click, You right click to put your duplication on top of the original. So it looks like I don't have 2, but I do have 2 here. If I move one forward, there he is. And all I'm going to do with that is I'm going to set that back to 0. And I need to do a 180 because this character's side view is facing backwards. I want to face forwards, so I need to do a 180. 180 degrees, thank you. Nice flip. And I could bring this back so it's along the white line, but I'm actually going to leave it in front. Okay.
That one's the side view, this one's the...
Yep. So this is our side view for our character, and this is our front view for our character. And the last thing I'm going to do is actually move the side view back a little. I'm going to leave the front view on the plane there. Yeah, that's what I want to do. The last thing I'm going to do with these two is I'm going to lock them in place so that I cannot move my image planes. They are perfect the way they are. I need to lock them in place. So what I'm going to do is up in my outliner, hierarchy, however you want to call it, it's the same thing. I have option filter tools. I'm going to turn on this little mouse. This is your selectability tool, and I'm going to turn it off for these 2 objects. So I cannot select them with the mouse. And then I'm going to turn that guy off because I'm not moving those ever again. They're not needed. They need to stay put. Have I lost anyone so far?
I'm just repositioning
Everyone good
the
at home?
turn around front 001.
All right. Turn around front 001. Oh yeah, I can rename that guy to side view now. We'll do side. We got front and side. Everyone else good?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay in the middle of the camera here. Hold on. There it goes. That's better. This is a very horrible webcam. All right, so I'm going to turn back on my person cube. And now we're going to get started with the actual modeling process. So all the design work is deciding who and what this character is. You need this background information and everything. Now we get to actually model it. And as soon as you have concept art, even as little as this, you're good to go to start modeling, and you can always tweak after when you have the final design and concept, as long as there's not too much difference. I mean, it's doable, but very hard to do. So I'm going to take my cube, I'm going to go into modeling. Now, please note, humans are round, but I am working with a cube to make a human.
Why don't people usually scope those stuff, or can you model? Actually, I guess if you're doing load, I don't, I'm not a Blender person, as you can tell. I don't know.
Okay, so we got, no, you have a good question. So we're going to cover this question and concept right now. All right. Yes, there are people who their entire life is to sculpt character models. Okay, and they sculpt these beautiful billion polygon character models, which take up 4 times what your game can handle in polygon count.
I heard some people, I don't know what they do. They do like some sort of, they make their model and then they do the game. Like,
yep.
What is it called again?
That is retopologizing. Okay, so what happens is they make these really big billion polygon sculpts that don't fit in the games. The games literally crash when they try to import these kind of sculpts. Those sculpts are only for texture. That's all they are ever used for. They are not used for the actual game's models. Okay, then you have 1 or 2 options really when you do modeling. You make the high poly first, you have it done, then you come back and you remodel it in this process to make it low poly. And then you apply the high poly texture to the low poly model, which I find is a ridiculous way to go about it, but some people find it easier to do the high poly first. Me personally, if you have to go back to the low poly, you might as well start there and just move forward. That's how I do it. So this is going to be a low poly to high poly model. As soon as I'm done with this character model, I can make a copy of it and do subdivision, which will take my poly count from what it is and multiply it by 4 or 16 or 64, depending upon how many iterations I want in my subdivision. Notice it is a 4 multiple there. and then take that into the sculpting tools and add the sculpting, shading, and everything. And then my low poly is already made. My high poly has the detail, and I'm still just baking that high poly down to my low poly model. This is what I call forward modeling instead of backwards modeling. Both ways work. It depends upon what you're more comfortable with. If you can make a high poly model in 2 hours, and then spend the next week making it into a low poly model, which is what's going to happen. You can't just retopologize and it all works out. It never works out. You have to come from 1 billion polygons down to 1,500. It takes a while to get that number right, just to get the shaping right. Or you can make that 1,500 and then add the billion on top of it. That's how I work. So this is a low poly to high poly model. All right, again, humans are round, but I'm starting with a square, a cube. This is important to note. When I'm doing modeling, be it low poly, high poly, buildings, rocks, characters, really 90% of the time, I start with a cube. Even if they are round, unless they are a fully symmetrically round object, be it glass, be it a soda can, a cone, I don't start with cylinders. Human characters, for a while there were modelers that would start with cylinders for human characters, and that was great and all, except for that they found that humans are more square than round, even if they are round. It gets a little weird. All right, so let's get started with this guy. So when I start a character model, I start with the chest. It's the easiest starting jumping off point, and it makes creating the arms, the legs, and the head easy. So I'm going to make this cube fit my chest. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it transparent. So if you go into the upper right-hand corner of your viewport, you're going to see 4 bubbles and a couple of squares. Those 4 bubbles are your layer managers, and the squares is your transparency. Next I'm going to do, now notice I am in edit mode, I am in modeling. I'm doing all of this modeling here in edit. And the reason I say that is because the origin point of my model is going to stay put even as I do all of this modeling. And see that orange dot right there? That's my origin point. That's where it's going to move in the main viewport. And that's what we want to see. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to go into this view. I start with my scale tools. I haven't done anything yet that would be weird other than I'm just about to start scaling my box to make it fit my model. Okay, so I need to come from the bottom. I got to go up to the top there. I'm in vertex mode, so I'm going to just select everything I need to move this up. I'm just going from shoulder to groin. Mm-hmm. That's the chest area. That's the start of it. Okay. And so I'm in my front viewport here. I'm in X. I'm going to move to my Y viewport. Okay. And I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to create my bounding box here around the chest area. Okay. Something like that. Trying to get it as symmetrical as working as possible. Any questions so far? Any questions so far?
No.
No.
Okay. Please do not hurt yourself. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is start adding into my lovely time here. I'm going to start adding my edge loops. So I'm going to use the loop cut tool. Now the loop cut tool in Blender is amazing. Awesome. You know what it does? It cuts in the center. And I don't have to think about it. So I'm going to do a center cut right down the middle of our character. And this is lined up perfectly, as you can see there. And then I'm going to do a center cut down the middle of my character here. Ooh, I am like on point today. We're perfect. So I've done a center cut down the front, and I've done a center cut down the side of my character. Okay, this is where things are important. We need that center cut for later, but we're not going to use it just yet. Okay. All right, so now that I have those two, I'm going to work in my side view. This is a really important view. We need to get our arms in place. We need to make sure that they are available and in place. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a cut in the center here where the stomach is at. That's important. Just a click away. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start working on the arm. So I'm going to click, hold, don't let go, and drag to the bottom of where my arms are going to be. Okay. And I'm going to leave it there. Now, depending upon your character model, you may have more space above the arm where the shoulder comes up more. On a human body, that happens. We have a rounded shoulder here, so it comes higher than the top of the arm. Some characters you do not. Okay. So for this character, we do not have a whole lot of space between where the arm starts and where the arm starts here at the top and where the shoulder is at. Okay, so I'm not going to make the second cut, but if I needed to, I could make a cut up here to delineate this is the top of the shoulder where the arm is at, and this is the top of the height of the shoulder but where it meets the neck. Okay. From here, I like to do one little trick. Okay, I'm going to switch to face mode for this next part. I'm going to select these two faces. Okay, now I did click twice because there are two faces there. In this view, if you overlap the two dots there, you'll get both of those faces. And I like to do an insert face. Okay, in Maya, this tool would be under your extrude tool, and it's called an offset. Here, it's called an insert face. I like to create this guy, and what it does is it creates a square in this area. And this is what's going to become my arm later on. So now I'm going to scale things into place, make this smaller. And as long as I'm using flat tools here, and I'm not trying to do anything weird, this is going to be fine. Okay, so for right now, this is what I want. I do use the gizmos. I like using the gizmos way more than just using the shortcut keys with the actual typing. I'm a relative modeler. I don't know the exact how many pixel points I need to move out. How many unit points I need to move out.
Don't they have shortcuts?
Yes, those are your move, your scale, and your rotate tools. In Blender, it's G, S, and R. Okay, which is really hard for me to get through on the computer, especially with Maya when it's Q, or it's W, E, and R. Okay, I use the gizmos in Maya as well. I'm a relative modeler. I like to see where I'm going to and not have, if you're using those other shortcuts, you're being specific, you have a number in which you're moving to. Okay. So I'm going to leave that right there. I'm at the top here, at the bottom here. This is going to give me a good outline. Actually, I'm going to go back here a little bit. I'm going to get rid of that line. Okay. So I just removed that inset line, or that loop cut line there, just by doing Control Z. I could have deleted it if I needed to, but I'm just going to Control Z back out, and I'm going to create this guy. That way it's a little bit prettier. There we go. Again, it all depends on the model I'm making, how long I'm giving myself to work on it, and what's the style and shape. Okay, that looks good. And this is what I need. This is my starting point for my arm. It's not perfect. It's just a square right now. But that's where my arm is going to come from. Let me go into this routine. This is where my arm is going to extrude from when I get to that later. Okay? I do the same thing with the leg. But the leg is a lot easier. We're just going to come down here. Okay? And in fact, we're even going to cheat here a little bit. We're going to choose two faces. 1, 2. And we're just going to do a quick inset. In fact, I'm not even going to do anything else to this guy. I'm just putting him right there. Nothing else right now because there are other changes I need to make before I continue. Notice I'm ignoring the other leg. This is the cool part. Here we go. This is where things start to look right. I'm back into it, my X-ray view. I'm going to go back into my X view here. And I'm going to area select all of the faces on, in this case, the left side of the body. It's my right side, his left. Our left, their left, its left, whatever it is. Okay? It's all of the lefts over here. It's the left in the image facing me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the delete key and I'm going to delete faces. Okay. I now have a giant hole. This hole is on purpose, but we now have a giant hole. Okay. So this is where our first modifier comes in, and this is what's going to be fun to do. In Blender, you have your tools bars here, and this little blue wrench here is your modifier tool. You can add modifiers, and in this case, we're going to generate a mirror. Okay. On our person. Now, there's our mirror right there. He's in the wrong spot. We want to generate him along the Z. We don't want to do it on the X. Got it? Nope. Wrong Z. We were doing Y here. Turn off Z. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. You gotta play around with these settings. So there's our axis. It's on the Y. There it is. So anything I do to this one side, this is where it's different from Maya. Anything I do to the one side happens to the other. Okay. So now, in Maya, when you put on a mirror, this is one of the weird things, it becomes a solid generated object. After that mirror has been applied, you cannot, when you edit one side, it does not affect the other. Okay. So when you're doing this in Maya, you're going to do the mirror last. Very strange. Okay. Everyone good so far? Yep. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to put in a few more loop cuts that I need to have in here. I'm going to put a loop cut right here along the arm. That's going to allow for us to have 8 points to circle out that arm. I'm going to put one here down the leg area. Again, that's going to give us 8 points. Okay. See how that looks. Actually, no, I'm going to undo that leg one for just a second. We'll get back to him in a second. First, I'm going to curve my body. I could go through here and get all of this information right here done first, which is so doable. So if I come here, turn on my X-ray, I can move my body into position. So I'm just going to use area selects and I'm going to move my vertices here. Okay. And this is going to give us the shape of our body. And when you do area selects like this, you're actually moving both the front and the center line there. Okay, so this will allow for us to start curving out our arms. Again, I am working with the gizmos in 1 dimension of movement, not 2, not 3. This is important. Do not work in 2 or 3D when you're working in this kind of profile modeling-esque kind of deal. And this one come forward a little. That guy's there. I select that one, bring him forward. And you can start to fill out the body and how the body is working here. Give me that. That was me working in Maya for way too long. Okay, we got one there. You can come in here. This is actually a good time to do these kinds of loop cuts. And all I'm doing is profiling the shape of my model. This is the reason why a side view and a front view are so important. Okay. And I'm actually going to bring both of these a little in here. I'm actually going to bring, even though that center line is spot on for the line, I do want to bring that center line to the center of the full body here. Right in the middle. This guy, Control Z. Come forward a little bit there. So it follows the middle of the body for the most part. That guy can come forward a little and we'll leave that line right there. Yeah. And then just add loops where you need it to create the shape. Add a loop cut, come in, move that so it's in place. And because we're mirrored, and it's okay right here. So see this double vertex down here? Too much Maya these days. This is the top of the leg that we created earlier. So it's okay to move those together. They need to be moved together anyway. Bring this guy in. And I need to bring out the butt. So let me put in a loop here for the butt. And I'm just going to bring this guy right out. Okay. Now, if you look at this in perspective, rotate out. This is still very cube shape. I haven't done much to it. I am going to do a little more work on the front, but I'm not going to add any more lines. Okay. I'm just going to make it so it follows the profile. Area select, move over. Select, move over. And when I do this upper section, I'm going to select all of this, including everything I made for the arms to keep that all flat. And I'm going to cut the shoulder off. See that line right there? That's where I want it to be. Now comes the fun part. Now we get to curve our model. Okay. At this point, we have not curved the model yet. If you look at this in perspective, it is still a very blocky. And this is one trick I have learned after many years of modeling characters. And most people won't tell you how to do this. I'm going to take my edge corner here, all of the edges going up. I'm going to take both corners here. Now notice I'm not doing all four because I don't have to. It's mirrored. I don't have to do all four corners. If you were in Maya and you wanted to, you would have to do all four corners. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move those edges inwards. That. And then ever so slightly, not a whole lot, just a little, scale them inwards on the X right here. And the only reason I'm doing that is our profile is the center line. It is not the corners. The profile we're seeing here are the center line of the model that we just created. And if you look around it now, that looks far more like our character than it did a few seconds ago. All right? That is the neatest trick I have ever taught to anybody, and it is so important that people know how to do that. And this works for all human characters. We now have a torso. A physical torso here. Let me hide my two image planes here so you can see them really easily. And if I go through and I take this guy and I take shade smooth, you can see that torso, that human body coming to life. Okay. Any questions about that little treat? Little trick there. Have I lost anybody? Everyone at home good?
Oh, I'm just not very used to Blender, but overall, I think I'm good. Yeah.
Okay.
I would be following along, but like I'm in the middle of something right now, so.
Oh,
Okay, no worries, no worries. That's the reason why we're recording this. But thank you for joining. Yes, we are recording this, so you guys can take it afterwards. Okay. All right. So here we go. We're going to go back. I'm going to unshade smooth. I'm going to shade this flat. By the way, flat and smooth are hard and soft in Maya. It's the same concept. It's where you are moving from face to face, and if you are completely redoing the lighting on each face, it's called flat or geodescent or hard, which is what it is in Maya. It looks like a gemstone, all flat faces going from where the light bounces from each face. Smooth is where you get this nice, lovely texture here. The light bounces and it flows across your model. All right, back into modeling. You will be amazed that we are about 90% done with this character. Okay. At this point, we're really far along. It doesn't take much to finish this character, especially with the character we have. But we will have the basic body here done pretty quickly. Now it's time to go fix some images. So you'll notice here on the legs, I have some issues. I have not so many issues here on the arms. I do need to take into account the shoulder line here, but otherwise I got to fix my legs here real quickly. So this is called artifacting, when you have two faces that are in the same plane of existence at the same time. They fight for being seen, so they both want to be seen, so they look jagged. There are easy fixes for that. In this case, we're going to take these two edge points here. I'm going to use my move tool, and I'm just going to move along the green line here and just bring them in. Okay. And I'm actually going to leave them right there, and I'm going to give myself another line. The line I removed earlier, but I need to put back in, is this guy. This will allow for us to go straight through the middle of our leg, goes through the top of our torso here. Now, the reason why I wanted to save it until now is because I didn't want to do all of this movement here on it because I didn't need to until later. But what it is for is to give us a 4-panel leg. Okay, and I'm going to come to the bottom view, which is this -Z. Now, when I move between viewports, I use the the compass up here, and I just click on which view I want to see. And unlike Maya, which gives you a perspective view, this goes, when you go flat, you're always in orthographic. Okay, so I'm going to move this guy here. I'm going to just make a rounded shape. Doesn't have to be perfect. But this is going to be the shape of the top of our leg. Oh, okay. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these three and this guy, this center point here, and I'm going to drive it back a little. Okay. This is underneath, this is where the middle of your leg underneath the center crotch area, this main line. So we're going to move it slightly back to give us a little more even leg size there, but your back of your leg is larger than the front. That's part of your anatomy classes. The back of the leg is always going to be larger than the front. So I'm going to add a little bit here to this, just round this out. Now, this is the fun part. I'm going to go back to my X view. Okay. And what I'm going to do, now I'm just using the middle mouse wheel to rotate here. I'm going to go to face mode. I'm going to grab all 4 faces of my leg. Okay. Now, the obvious thing most people would do is extrude right away. This is not ready for extrusion. Okay. We are less than the size of our leg here with this area. Okay. This is a move. We want to first move our leg into position. Yeah, that works.
Mhm.
And that small part of the leg that we've created, and I'm going to move a little outwards, give it a little V there, allows for us to create this shape here. I'm a little off here with my edge point, but that's okay. All I have to do is move my vertex. And that guy can come in, and I'm actually going to grab all of these and move them in a little, give that a better shaping there. That looks good. That looks good. I'm going to grab all of them now. Okay. Because that's going to be our face. I'm going to go to my face mode because those are all my faces selected, which is lovely. I don't get this in Maya where you can select a whole bunch of vertices and switch to face mode and it still stays selected. Lovely time for me. I'm going to go flat and then I'm going to extrude. That's this little guy here with the top hat. And this is called an extrude region. You can extrude along normals if you have things that are rotated. You can extrude individual, which will extrude each face individually. We're just going to extrude region here. We're going to go straight down and I'm going to stop at the knee. I'm not going to do any scaling work with this. I'm just going straight down. I'm going to stop at the calf. Straight down again. I'm going to stop mid-calf here just because it's a huge change between the calf and the bottom of the leg. And then I'm going to extrude one more time at the top of the ankle. I could go further and go down to the bottom of the heel at this point, but I want to do some changes to the leg before I do so. All right, I've done all of that. I'm going to go into my edge selection here, and I'm going to start working on my edges. Okay, I'm going to select my ring of edges here. I'm going to turn on my scale tool. I'm going to work in one profile at a time. In this case, I'm in the front view, so I'm only using the green handle, which is the Y scaling tool. Okay, and I'm going to bring that in, move it into place. And if I need to bring it in some more, which I do on this case, I scale it in a little bit more. I have not done anything on the X. This is only a one-way scaling. So if I were to look at this in perspective, it looks very bad. Okay? We're working with one perspective at a time. So that's my knee in some very bad bell bottoms. If you are making bell bottoms, there you go. You're good. If you're not making bell bottoms, you needed to keep doing your work. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my X view, which is my front view, turn back on my X-ray, and I'm going to go down to my next line. Okay? And again, in this case, I'm going to start with a move, kind of even it between the two, and then start with a scale, bring it in. This is the top of the calf. And it needs to come in just like that. You'll notice these little points here. Those are what you're going to come back to and add more edge loops later. You want to get your main design first. Okay. And then we're going to come down. Okay. And for those of you who are used to Maya and haven't figured it out yet, if you hold shift and the middle mouse wheel, you pan. If you just use the middle mouse wheel, that's where you rotate. And zoom is the same in every software. Scroll that middle mouse wheel. So I'm going to move this. Now watch, in this case, you want to watch that center line, because if you go too far, that mirror is going to start overlapping and giving you trouble. But I'm going to move that there. So that's the center line of the leg right there. That's our center line. Now I'm going to do my scale work. Scale everything in. Move back. My move tool. And it's just a matter of scale, move, move, scale, move. Okay. Now I'm going to come down here. For the bottom one, I'm actually going to switch to vertices. Because of the way the bottom works, an edge loop does not always select properly with the corners like that in Blender. So I'm going to use my verts as my base. But I'm going to still use the same tools. I'm going to scale in. I'm going to use the move tool. It's just the area in which I'm working with. And I'm going to, in this case, scale in, because this character needs a lot of scaling at the ankle. This is the reason why I didn't go straight to the bottom of the heel, because the ankle here is really weird. I'm going to do an area select on my corner here, bring that guy in, bring that guy in. There we go. All right, now I have the start and the bases of the legs from the front view. Okay. When we switch to the negative Y here, it's not so perfect on our side view. All right, let me do one last check here. Yep, I'm going to need a loop here at the top of the leg to get the shape of the thigh properly. I'm going to need one at the knee again, at least just to smooth things out a little. Above and below the knee, if I'm going to do animation, I need to have a 3-loop set right here for where things bend. These are things I need to pay attention to as I model. All right, so let's go to our side view here. And we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to match our profile. And we're only working with one tool at a time. So in this case, we're going to be working with our X tool. So we're using the red handle now. And all I'm doing is pulling into shape. This will be fixed when we add that new line into the top, so I'm not too worried about it. And move down. Most of these are pretty spot on for what we need. I'm going to go ahead and scale this guy in and move. Okay. Now notice here is where things get a little trippy at the knee. This is again where your turnarounds are never perfect. If I were to move this piece down here to the highest point of the knee, which would be down here, it would change the way it looks. Even though the high point of the knee is on that blue line in this view. Here, the high point is below that blue line. Okay, so that's the patella there. You could get away with fudging it if you wanted to. All right, I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to start by moving backwards. I'm going to put that center line into place. And I'm actually going to move this whole section here. I'm going to use the move tool for most of this. Area select my center line, move it back. Because the center line on the calf is a little weird. It actually follows this diagram line here. That's the shadow line of the calf. So our calf is a little more back forwards than the back is larger than the front. Let me say it that way. So I'm just going to use the move tool on that one. Here, I select this, follow that down so that follows that shadow line. It comes this way. We're going to come this way. And I'm just using the move tool to put things into place. I could scale here. I don't need to because of how uneven this kind of scaling is. I'm not going to do that. Moving is a lot easier at this point. That here, we're going to put that guy there. I'm going to come back. I'm going to take that section right there, which is the corner of it, and move it backwards. I'm going to take these two, bring them in. I'm going to drop them there, and then bring this one back. That will give me the curve I want. So when I come out of this view, this is what my legs look like. Okay, and we're only into about half hour into this model. We have legs and we have a torso. Okay. And this is just a base. Remember, your goal here is to make the base and then add the detail. Always start with the easiest part first and as few polys as you can get away with. All right, let's add the feet in, and then we'll work on the arms and the hands. Because this is an end pose, they're going to be a little bit more tricky. All right, so I'm going to come in here. I'm going to grab my 4 faces here for the bottom of my leg. 2, 3, and 4. They should be absolutely flat, which you can see here on this second side. They're absolutely flat. If they weren't flat, there would be indents here where the face is changed. I'm going to go back to my front view for this. And I'm going to do another extrusion down to the bottom of the foot. Go straight down. Right there. That's the bottom of the foot. And then I'm going to go to my Y view, and this is where things get a little tricky. As you see, the shape of the foot is not exactly the same as the rest of the leg. So we're going to start changing up the shape of our foot. And I'm going to do it with my X-ray on. I'm going to turn off my extrude tool. I don't need it. I'm going to grab the back 3 vertices. So an area select gets any vertices behind. So there's one here and there's one behind it. You know how many verts I have? If you look in the bottom corner of your blender, you should see the number of verts you have selected. If you can't see that, right-click on that black toolbar and turn on Scene Statistics. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move these to the back here. I'm going to take the second one. There's 2 verts there. I'm going to bring it a little more forward. That's the back of our heel. Okay. So that's the back 4 faces. What we're going to do is grab the front 4 faces now. Turn back off that. Okay. I'm going to go into face mode. I'm going to grab 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Those are what we're going to extrude to create the toes. Back to my Y view. I'm going to do area extrude or region extrude here. I'm going to come straight out, and then I'm going to stop right there. Now, this extrusion is rounded. Okay. I could leave it like that and just work with it, but you will notice it's kind of box shaped here at the bottom. So I don't want them rounded this much. A good tool and a good thumb is to use your scale tool and scale on the plane in which you want it to be flat. Okay. And get it pretty close. In my case, it's not going to go all the way flat, but it's close. Close enough right there. I am now flat. If I were in a flat view, it would be a lot easier to see how flat it went. And all I did was scale along that plane. Those faces selected. This is a great tool to use if you have something that has been rounded and you need to flatten it out, a sphere, something, and it needs to be smaller, like the size of a coin that you start with a sphere from. Just scale along that height depth and you're good. Okay. So I'm going to come from here. I'm going to come back to my Y, turn back on my X-ray. I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to put in my next 2 extrusions. I want one here and one here. So I'm just going to come straight out. So this is the middle of the foot. This is the toe change. And that's the tip of the toe right there. Okay. Now that we have all of that, we can come into our vertice selection here and start changing our height. So I'm going to grab all of these top vertices and I'm going to bring them down. That's going to create that angle on the foot there. Come into my next set. Now I'm grabbing everything because they all have to move down eventually. And I'm not going to change this one just yet. The reason I'm not is because now I need to go through, I'm going to area select this area right here. I'm going to go to my X view and I need to fix this. I'm actually going to grab the entire toe area. So I'm going to grab all of these on my X view and I'm going to fix this issue with the feet. So I'm going to do my scale. Okay, and I'm going to scale this way and move. Now your feet, all humanoid feet tend to angle out either outwards or inwards. We don't like to have our feet perfectly straight The only people I've ever seen who have perfectly straight feet all the time are ballerinas and yoga instructors. That's because they trained for years to get that to happen. Most of the time, people's feet tend to angle outwards or inwards. It's pigeon toed or duck feet, depending upon who you're talking to. The concept is you're going to angle it out and it's going to look more realistic. So I've done the first angle. Okay. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to deselect. I'm going to grab this portion of the toe now. I'm going to come back out this way a little more. Okay, that looks really good. Actually, Control Z. I think I can just scale it a little. Give me a little more width and then do a move. All of that, I'll angle that line there. And then I'm just going to grab the toe box now. The toe box is this very badly square right here. So I need to, I could just scale down, but what I want to do is grab the top of that toe box. You, thank you. All of you. All I'm going to do is move that downwards. And that's going to create that toe area. And then I'm going to select everything. Because the toe box is very strange on a human body, our toes become smaller, so we need to scale in ever so slightly. There we go. We have a foot. And then we can move this part of the toe box backwards to follow our profile. There it goes. There we go. That is our foot. And we can now come out of it and our leg and our feet are done. Yay! You can tweak this by moving your corner edges here. These guys right here. You can move them downwards to give it a more rounded toe, more rounded foot.
I think the way to select everything. How to do it. So
Mhm.
I'll do that.
And you can take these guys and you can come up. That is soft selection. We're not doing that today, but what you're talking about is soft selection, where you soft select things and it'll move on your own. It's this guy right here, the little bullseye at the top. Proportional editing in this case, but soft selection in others. Here you can just add little tweaks to get the shaping just right, because our feet are very rounded. And you could add more loops in here. Now, the cool thing about doing it this way is when you go to your loop cut tool, you'll notice it goes around all the portions you need it to. If I need to add more loops to the side of the foot, it goes around the foot. If I needed to add it here, it goes around perfectly. Okay. It goes around the leg. If I needed to go up the leg, it'll go around the leg, around the foot, and back up again. Okay, it goes around your character. That is the goal when you're modeling in this kind of format, is you want to be able to go around your character and not have it stop anywhere. Okay. All right, so I'm going to turn off that tool. I'm going to go back to my layout. I'm going to check everything in layout view here. Take a look here. I'm going to give her a smooth. So right click, shade smooth. There is our character model so far. All right, how's everyone doing? 45 minutes in. Have I lost you? No?
Where's the Leo?
I'm still alive.
It's still alive. Awesome. All right, let me show you how to do arms. And I bet you guys already know how to do arms because I just showed you how to do them. Yeah. Yep, you're going to do arms the exact same way we just did the leg. Okay, that's the reason why we have this guy. Okay, so this guy, in the only difference between the leg and the arms here, I'm actually going to move the shoulder back because I forgot to do that earlier. Okay, and he needs to come up a little. He needs to come up a little. He needs to come up. Sorry, this is a modeling issue here. You're going to find that you're going to tweak things. It's a squirrel issue. It's a squirrel response. You're going to tweak things when you see them. Okay, so our arm, the only difference between our arm and our leg is we are not going to move our arm. We're just going to straight up extrude it. And this is where a T pose comes in handy. Now, if you do not have access to a T pose, Okay. It gets a little more tricky. It is still doable. So I'm going to start with my front view here. Okay. I'm going to come in here, and what you're going to do is your first extrusion, you're going to come out to the center of your shoulder. So you're going to rotate 45. So I'm going to extrude first. And I'm going to use my rotate tool. I'm going to rotate 45. And then I'm going to use my move tool. Okay, now this is going to be hard though. This move tool is set to the world. Okay, the world is up, down, left, and right, but that's not what we're moving. We're moving in an angle now. So I need to change my move to local or normal. I think normal is going to be it. Here we go, normal view. So now I can just move in one plane of direction and it will move for me. See how that works? Okay, so now I have that moved into place. I'm going to do a second extrusion. And this is going to be the bottom of the shoulder. So we're going to rotate again. I got to go back to global though. So when I rotate, I want to be flat. And I'm going to rotate all the way up so it's flat here. Okay. As flat as I can get it. And then I'm going to move. It doesn't have to be perfect, just as flat as you can get it, because we're going to move things later. And we're going to scale things later. The goal here is to get this to turn to follow your concept art. Now I'm going to turn on my X-ray and start working from there. Okay. So I will come back to these loops later. I'm going to leave them messy for right now. We can always come back, and we're going to make our arm and then we're going to clean our arm. So I'm going to extrude again. I'm going to come down to the top of, in this case, I'm going to come to the top of the elbow or to the middle of the elbow. We'll do the middle of the elbow and then we can always import the other two loops later. But this character does not have a change in physical mass on their arms. It's very cylindrical. So at this point, you're not going to have that there. If I wanted to have that physical mass change is all up here underneath this guy, and then it's going to become small. So what you could do is come down a little bit, leave that there. We're going to rotate it so it faces and follows the arm shape. Okay, kind of like that. Then we're going to extrude again, and we're going to come to the elbow. And the reason we have this line is to create that massive change between the shoulder and the arm. Okay. So one will be above that change, one is below that change. And then from here, it's a extrude, rotate, any moves you need to make your moves in normal view. And you want to have your center line of your arm follow the arm down. Okay, we're not worried about the outside of the arms right now. We're just following the center line. Okay, and then we're going to move again. I'm just going to come straight down. And that's going to go to the wrist. And I'm not going to create the hand just yet. So I'm going to move this guy over here. That moves along that plane. That looks good. A little bit more. He's still a little off. There we go. So that plane, that line follows this plane of existence here, which is your end pose arm. This is the reason why I don't like doing end pose characters. The arms become tricky and a little wonkified because of the end pose. Okay. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is create the top of the palm and not the rest of the hand. So no worries. I'm just going to do one more extrusion. And this extrusion actually comes to where the thumb starts. Okay, not the actual rest of the palm, just where the thumb starts, because here we're going to create another extrusion later to create the rest of the palm. We're going to leave that there. That's going to be our end point for this portion. Now we go back through our arm and we start cleanup. That's what this is all about. You make one thing, you do cleanup. Notice I am not doing the side view. Okay. At this point in time, one, we don't have a good side view of the arm. So we're going to have to pretend. And two, we have to do this fiddling later. But the side view is a little bit harder than the front view. So we're going to work with the front and get things settled here before we work with how wide our arms tend to be. Okay, so I'm going to come in here. I'm going to start. I'm actually going to ignore most of the shoulder, this first line here. I'm going to come to the next line. I'm going to use my edge loop. You double click, your edge loop should select all the way through. Oh no, it's having some problems there with that corner. Okay. This is where you start to pay attention to your edges really well. So this is a loop and it's cutting through, so it's having problems selecting that. That's all right, we got this. I'm just going to select them all. I'm going to turn on my scale tool. I'm going to go back into global for right now. I want this to be a global scale because this is mostly flat. And I'm just going to scale inwards on the green here to start to get the shape. And I'm going to move this guy upwards. He's going to be the bottom of the shoulder area. So this part here will be part of this guy. And my verts here, I'm going to drag these guys over a little and up a little. This is where things get a little twitchy with the arm because things are moving. They didn't move before. And I'm going to fix this guy. This is the underarm. He always needs to be fixed. There we go. Okay, so we're going to do our next loop here. Ah, this is that version. This version of... So there are some versions of Blender that allows for a double select. There are some that do not. This is that version where it doesn't allow for a double select. Okay, do I have any? Okay, I do not. We're going to turn on our normal. We're going to do our scale. That's not going to work. Try local. Nope, that's not going to work. Okay, we're going to just do global then. Sometimes you can get it so where it scales properly along the same path line, but here we're just going to pull this in. Okay. That looks good. I'm actually going to rotate this line a little. Make it a little flat. Scale it in. And this is all you're doing is you're tweaking. You're just tweaking. And this is going to create that curved portion of the model where the arm is working here. I'm going to bring this a little forward, scale out, zoom out, and rotate. Close that guy right there. Scale in ever so slightly. There we go. That follows that guy. Come in. Start working on my elbow. And it's just that easy. Make your lines, scale your tools, rotate when you need to. It's all a matter of perspective. And you want to work in flat views as much as possible. Okay, so like there's my elbow. Let's move it over ever so slightly. There we go. So my arm is starting to come together. I'm going to take this section here. This is where the wrist comes into play. So I'm going to go ahead and do the scale here because the wrist is very tiny. Again, you're just going to scale one direction. Sometimes it works easily, sometimes it doesn't because of the curves. That's okay. Do your rotations, do more scaling. This is all a matter of getting your perspective right, and it's okay if it doesn't work perfectly the first time. And there we go. There we go. There is our arm from our front view. Now notice I'm not playing with the hand. I'm just playing with the arm at this point. Okay. Now, when we look at the arm from the side view, things are a little different. Our arm's a little wide, unproportional. It looks like her arm is broken, but that's actually the way the concept art works. This is where anatomy is a really good friend of yours. Our arms can technically bend that way. So it's okay. It just looks weird. Yeah. Here we go. Okay. Before I do this next part on the arm, I need to make sure I have some freedom of movement here with the rest of the body. So I'm going to select the rest of the body. Okay, and if you don't have X-ray on, you have to do area select. So let me turn back on X-ray. X-ray allows for you to select through in Blender, where when you don't have X-ray on, it does not. It only selects what's facing you. I need to make sure I deselect, turn off X-ray. I need to deselect these faces here. These are faces I'm going to be working with. No, back and stay, back and stay. We're not going to change those. I can stay, and these guys can come off. That one can come off. Okay. There we go. Okay. All I'm going to do is, for now, I'm going to hide these faces. Now let's see if I can remember how to do this properly. H. H it is. This is the reason why I work in too many softwares. Okay. Those are hidden. They're not broken. They are still attached to our model. They are just out of our view so that we can work on the arm properly without causing other issues. So let's go back to our side view here and start working on our arm. All right, let's talk about arm design and matrices here. This character's arm is round. If you are making a human character, a human's arm is not round. It's squarish, rectangular, cubic. But in this case, the character is round. So we're going to try to round out our character's arm as best we can. Okay, and I'm going to start with this top line. I am not in the view I like to be in, which is a Shift and Alt. I hate that view. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm here in this view. I'm going to use the X scale to round out the arm, and I'm watching the roundness here come through. I'm not worried about the top. I'm only worried about the rest of the arm coming down. Trying to even out the arm because of the way this character is made. Our arm is evened out. And then come down to the next one. I don't have to move anything because everything is in the right position already. I'm just rounding. I'm bringing it in, looking around, double checking. This is where artist interpretation tends to come into play with your 3D models. Okay. Do the same thing here. Now, if you were doing this on a regular human character, the elbow is the weirdest point. Our elbows are actually extremely thin in the center. Okay, because if it's a joint that we don't have a lot of beef and muscle there. So when you do an elbow for a human character, you want it to look like a rectangle based off of the way it's facing outwards. And in the way this arm is facing, the joint here is actually right here. So it's square this way. But this, again, is a round character, so I don't have to go that deep. We're just going to come in a little like that. Okay, and then down to the wrist. Notice I'm not touching the hand yet again. I'm just working on my arm and getting it shaped. And I'm only using one axis at a time. This is actually pretty tiny, so I need to come in quite far. There we go. That looks good. There we go. So there is our arm so far for our character model. Now, it's not perfect. The shoulder needs some work. The hand obviously needs some work, but the arm in and of itself is all about size and scale and rounding off based off of your character. If you have a human model, you're going to have a lot more changes here in depth. You're going to have the biceps, the tricep muscles in the upper arm. You're going to have the muscles around the double bones in your lower arm. So be aware of what you're working on. This is the reason why I say anatomy classes are a best friend of a character modeler. You will understand why the shapes look the way they do with all of the muscles underneath the character's skin. All right, I need a 5-minute break. I need to breathe. Any questions?
Not really.
Not really? Okay. Oh, whew, sorry. That was a lot of talking. Now, to fix the issues that are in the arm, I've sat down, so sorry. Hold on. There we go. To fix the issues that you see in the arm here in the shoulder area, you add more edge loops. That's all you need to do. Add more edge loops, scale, and move. That's all you need to do for some of these issues. Okay. And if I use Control H, nope, that's not it. Alt H. There we go. Our character comes back to life. And now there she is, all put together. She is still one model. She's not in broken pieces. She has some stretching here. That's from the shoulder. We haven't fixed the shoulder all the way. It's still a little tight, but it works. And I'm going to put this back to flat so you can see it's that guy right there. That little dink right there at the shoulder. Things can be fixed. It all comes down to edge loops. Don't add more edges than you need to, but when you need them, add them in. All right, so let's add the hands. And we're going to do the hands, and then we're going to do the neck, and then I'm going to show you how to do a head. Because the head is not this model. Okay, let me close that guy up. Go back into modeling. Here we go. We're going to start the same way we have started many a time by selecting our four faces at the bottom of our extrusion here. Okay. Now, before we go too much further with the hand is a rectangle. It is a cube. It is not round. It has rounded edges, but it is a cube. So we need to do our scale part right now so we can flatten it out. So we need to make this cube shape. And there is our cube. It's not perfectly cube shaped, but it's close enough. Any questions about the cube?
Nope.
Nope. Crickets. I need a cricket machine. I swear I need a cricket machine. Okay, here we go. The hand they have here is pointing straight down-ish, mostly, which makes our lives a lot easier. So I'm going to do a few tweaks, and then we're going to start doing some movement here. The first tweak I'm going to do is I'm going to move this outer edge here, and I'm going to come along the normal, and that should bring that guy right in here. I'm going to do the same thing over here. It is okay to not have a perfect hand here, the squarish looking hand here. We don't need it to be. If we wanted it to, what we would do is take all of this, those, that, and move that upwards, and that would become the start of the hand. If that's what you were aiming for. Which in this case, the model actually kind of calls for it, but you don't have to if you don't want to. All right, so I'm going to undo those few movements. So this is the start of the hand where we're going to move down and we're going to create the base of the thumb with an extrude. This is going to seem weird. We're going to move down to this portion here, right below where the thumb starts to come off the hand. Okay, that should be around the middle of your hand. I'm going to rotate this because the hand starts moving in weird directions here. And my move tool, bring that back up. Here we go. Okay, but you need to have a line there so that you can extrude off the thumb. The thumb has 3 joints. It's just, or 3 bones. It's just hard to see them. There is 2 joints there, just like the rest of the fingers. They're just in weird areas. Then I'm going to do another extrusion straight down, and this is going to be at the top of the knuckle pads. Okay, so the knuckles are back here. And we're looking at the knuckle pads here on the hand. So the hand is pointing this way. Sorry, this way. in the image, it looks like this. You're at the knuckle pads here. This is where our fingers come out, at the other side of the knuckle pads. If your model calls for adding knuckle pads, add another edge loop before this, from before the knuckle pads to after, and then you're going to do some inset faces for the knuckle pad areas to create those bumped areas, those raised. Okay, and then we're going to leave that there. Now comes in some weird work. So I'm going to turn this off. Okay. How many of you have ever used multi-cut or knife?
I've used
In Maya.
In Maya, you use multi-cut. Here it would be called knife. It's the same tool. Okay. This is an advanced tool. Let me say it this way. It is an advanced tool. You can cause yourself grief with this tool. And by grief, I mean weird triangles and polygons in places you never meant weird triangles and polygons to exist. So pay attention to what I do and try to follow as best as you can. Okay? This tool is dangerous. That's all I'm going to say. That's how I'm going to say it. We're going to get started here. Okay, the back of the palm looks good. Hold on. I want to move a few things. There we go. You can come out a little bit more. Okay, that's the thumb. Okay. So we're going to create here. Thank you. We're going to create a little bit of change in our topology. So far, we've been working with all quads all the way through. But we have 4 fingers, not 2. And there's only space here for 2 fingers. So we need to cut in using the knife tool in Blender or the multi-cut tool in Maya if you're doing it in Maya. It's the exact same process in Maya, by the way. You need to cut in a new set of edges here to allow for this to be 4. Okay. And what I'm going to do is, this is how I've always done it. I start in the middle of the palm center line. And I'm going to cut in the middle of this face, come down. By the way, you can rotate your view, by the way, when you're doing this. I'm going to cut up this face, come to the middle, and I'm going to come across and repeat what I did until I get back to that starting point. And I'm clicking on each edge or face where I want points to be. And then once I get to the center where I started again, I'm going to hit enter, and that's going to turn off the tool. I have created my new edges. Okay. This is not finished. We're not done yet. We need to do some cleanup. But this is my new edges. So I'm going to turn off my tool. And if you've done this right, you should have this lovely loop right here. Okay. Now again, I clicked everywhere I wanted a vertex to go. If you don't, you can skip a couple of vertices if you're going a straight line across. I don't suggest doing that with the way this tool is finicky. It can create extra vertices, it can create extra edges, it can create extra faces. It's best to select exactly where you want to go. Once you have this, you're good for making fingers. The only thing I need to change is I need to clean up my edge lines. And there are 2 choices with that. I'm going to go back. I'm in my vertex mode. I'm going to select these 2. I can go up the side of the hand, or I can go through the center of the hand. I'm going to go up through the sides. It looks a little cleaner when I do that. And all I'm going to do is connect the vertex pairs. So I did a right mouse click and it goes to that menu. This is not one that has an actual shortcut key on. But there you go. And I'm just going to connect it for each vertex pair around. And that gives me 4-sided faces everywhere. I no longer have any 5 or 6-sided faces. Everything is 4-sided. I'm back to being in quads. This is the only time I say a multi-cut tool or a knife tool is a good thing to have. Hi. Hold on a second. You can come in. I think so. Okay. So this is the only time I would say having a multi-cut tool or a knife tool is good to have. So now I'm going to fix up my fingers and then we can start with some fingers here. Okay. So first, where is our thumb? Our thumb is here. So this is going to be where our thumb comes out. And to do that, we're going to just create our thumb real quickly. And it's going to be this guy and that guy. And I'm going to create an extrusion this way. That's our thumb. Okay, there's our thumb right there. We now have it there. We don't have to do anything else for it for right now. That's where our thumb is going to come from. Now I can look at these faces and I'm like, I'm going to go to this view, the Z, negative Z view, and I'm going to start moving things around. So if our thumb is over here, that means this is our first finger. These 2 faces are our first finger. These two faces are our middle finger. This is our ring finger, and this is the pinky. In fact, based off of the way this looks, we only have issues with the pinky. So let's move some things around for the pinky. I'm just going to go into edge mode. I'm going to select these two edges, and I'm going to use my move tool. I'm in global, pretty flat here. I'm just going to move this down and move it a little over. We don't lose too much shape. I'm actually going to move this guy a little more forward. And we can take these two and move them a little back. That's just going to align our hand up a little more here. I think the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take in these two verts here with a slight scale, and I'm going to scale them towards each other just to square up those finger area. Okay, so we can see our thumb and our forefingers. All right, we're almost done. Everyone good? All right, so we're going to do the same trick we did on the leg on the fingers. I'm going to start by selecting the two faces I want to have insetted together. I'm going to do an insert face. I'm going to round this down. I'm going to leave that there. Next one, leave that there. Next one, leave that there. I'm not perfecting them just yet. I'm going to get to that here in a second. Next one, leave that there. Okay. We have 4 sets of faces here that are rounded out. These are the tips of our fingers. These are not the front of the fingers, they're not the start of the fingers at the knuckle pads. These are the tips of the fingers, the very part, the end of the fingers here. So we need to change our squares that we have here into those tips. Okay, so I'm going to go flat again. I'm just going to come in here with my vertex mode, and I'm just going to change the shape here of my fingers using my scale and my move tool. Do that, scale it out a little, and come back in here. I'm going to move these. And all I'm doing is changing the shape. Okay. I can come back that way, that way. This is where my fingertips are going to come into play. Now, the next thing you have to realize is which side is the back and which side is the front of your hand. In this case, the back of my hand is this curved section here. So my fingertips are facing outwards. So that's how your hand goes. When your thumb is facing outwards with your arm down, with your hands down, it's your palm facing forward and the back of your hands facing backwards. So that's where your nails are going to go. So if you're making nails for your character, you need to be able to tell that apart because your fingers are rounder on the bottom than they are at the top. And your nails will cause a different extrusion there at the top there. So we are going to take these two, we're going to bring them in, take these two, bring it out. That's the finger pad area. And then I'm just going to follow that coming down. I'm going to make this, scale this out a little. Bring these guys in a little. Move tool. It's all scale, move, and rotate. Everything about 3D modeling is scale, move, and rotate. These guys over here. Bring this one down a little. Okay, and you want to end for the middle of the finger area here, because your fingers, they taper out. They don't just like go up or down. And you want your 3 first fingers to be the same size. There we go. There we go. That looks good. That, by the way, does not. So let's move that guy over. There we go. Even that out. Okay, and all I'm doing is scaling and moving, shaping. My scale tool on. Shaping what will eventually be tips of my fingers. Well, once you get to the pinky is the smallest, by the way, so you can make it smaller than the other 3. Here we go.
I apologize. I'm going to pick up my phone.
I will log you out when I'm done.
Okay.
Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. We're almost there. The fingers are almost ready. Everybody ready for some fingers? Here we go. I'm going to go face mode. And usually I do this one finger at a time, but you can select all your fingers. Come out to your view here, your image view, and just move them down. And we now have fingers. They look very uncanny. They're very square, but you add some edge loops in there and they will be perfect. And then you can come in here and size them up how you need to, as the fingers are not all even, especially the pinky. Pinky is definitely the wrong size here. I like to go in through vertex mode and select the vertices. It makes it a little bit easier. Okay. Bring this guy in. If it's too big, you can always scale things. Too small, you can scale them. This guy comes up. There we go. There is our hand. There are our fingers. Okay. And you do the same thing with the thumb, by the way. The only difference between the thumb and the rest of the fingers is you have this guy back here. This little extrusion point. What you can do with him, and this is the coolest thing ever, all I'm going to do is move him down so that the hand arches off of it. And I'm going to do a little scale in. And then you can take this one and bring him out. And then you're going to do, just like we did before, we're going to do an inset face. With these two faces, it's going to look weird. The thumb looks weird at this point. It always does. Okay. And in fact, I'm going to move it first before editing it. Because it's a lot easier to edit out here than it is to edit at the interior. So I'm going to bring this guy out all the way. And as for this section right here, I'm just going to fix that by moving this little point right here. Give me that point, thank you. Moving him out here and then taking the 2 points, that one and that one. And you can't see those real well with X-ray on. So those 2 outer points there for the thumb, I'm going to move those outwards as well. That's going to create that look. I'm going to fix that here on the bottom. Move those out this way. And then we're going to take this one and bring it inwards so we round out the thumb properly. And again, pay attention to where you have different points in here. Okay. And I'm going to take this guy and move him in there. And that will allow for our thumb to actually work properly. There we go. We now have a thumb. Now, if you are bending your thumb or you're bending anything, you need to have edge loops in those where those bend joints are going to be. Blender is excellent for this. I'm going to turn on my loop cut tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my options panel and I'm going to go to the top one, which says tool. You can do this at the top of the screen as well, by the way, but I like to remember that it's here so I can always find it because all tools will show up here. I'm going to set the number of cuts to 2. I have 2 joints I need to make for my fingers here. Okay. And then I have 1 over here, so I'll make that one last. But what I can do is with that set to 2, it will evenly cut all of these for me and I don't have to think about it. There we go. We now have finger joints. And we can go through and scale those and make the fingers look even better and more rounded. I'm going to return to 1 cut here and I'm going to just cut right there for my thumb so that I have that joint, this joint here for the thumb. We have this joint here. That's this line back here. And then we have this joint for the thumb, which is where we extruded out of the palm to begin with. There you have it. You have hands, feet, legs, and arms. Any questions so far? Crickets. By the way, the only ones here are you guys online.
When do we get to making nails?
This would be the time to make a nail where you would come in here and you would what you would do is take, I'm going to take this face right here. You select that face, you add an insert face, and that creates the bed for the nail. And then you would do an extrusion out this way. That's how you make a nail.
Awesome.
Isn't that cool? Same tools over and over again makes everything. All right. We have 10 minutes, so I'm going to get to the last little bit here, which is the neck and the head. Like I said, we're not going to get fully finished. It takes 8 hours for me to complete a character model. Even this one would take me about 4 more hours. Because I would need to do all the cleanup on her and add in extra edge loops where I need the extra edge loops, even out the polygons, so my topology is even out. I have this giant section right here. I would need a loop here or two. Okay. But let's talk about the major structures here. We need to do the neck. And the neck is really good. This character is actually really well set up for the neck. Her neck comes out right here. I'm calling it a her. I don't even know if it's a her. Okay, but her neck doesn't come out all the way from everything here. So we need to create right here an insert edge using our faces here. Okay, we're going to insert this section. Now, the reason we do it this way is because we want it four-sided. This is not how the neck is going to finish out. We're just creating this so we have the edges to start working with our neck. Okay, and I'm going to start moving things around. Okay. This is going to take over this section right here. We're going to actually have a hole at some point. So first thing I want to do is remove actually my mirror. And I'm not deleting it. I'm just going to turn off its display. So if you go to the modifiers, go to the mirror modifier we added on. If you turn off the TV button, that means we can no longer see it. It's not displayed. Okay. But I'm going to actually remove these two faces. I'm just going to delete those faces, and this edge here is going to replace that. It is a very strange concept, but it's the best way to do the neck. Let me edges, thank you. These guys right here. And we're just going to bring this to the center line. So now we have this whole thing, and everything is still four-sided. We just added this little inset here. And I want to make sure that's fully straight, so I'm going to go to my X view here and move those into place. I want this line to be fully straight up and down because it makes the mirror a lot easier. We're not going to keep them for long. We just want the 2 points, the edge to be perfect. Okay, here we go. Because this is going to become to the neck. The neck needs to go up. We don't need faces in this portion of the body. We do need to change where these are located. We're going to take those two because our neck is not that wide. I'm going to use my scale tool as per normal. I'm going to bring it backwards. And then use my move tool for any weird changes I need to make into place. So I'm going to go flat here. Turn on my X-ray. And it's okay. The neck is going to change the topology a lot here, and that's all right. We're just playing around with it, getting it into place where we need it to go. This is where our neck is going to come out from. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move the center line back so it's even between the two pieces here. And that will give me 4 faces with 8 sides total, like we did with the arms and with the legs. That will allow for me to round out the neck. Okay. And again, you're going to do an extrude. We're going to extrude this face and this face. And we're going to come to our side view and we're going to extrude all the way straight up. However, we are not going to make the head. We are just extruding. I'm going to move this into place. I'm going to flatten this because apparently it's not flat. That's that scale tool right there. And I'm going to leave this right where it's at. I can move this into the head. And again, I would add loops here to make it rounder and everything. But the head is not going to be part of this portion of the model. So I'm going to turn off my X-ray. Take this, take that, go delete. Delete faces, so I have a hole. I need to make sure I delete this edge here as well, because it does not need to exist. Delete those. This. Okay. Come on. Delete. There we go. So now I have that hole. So now I can turn back on my modifier and everything should work just fine. There we go. She's a little thick-necked. That's all right. We can fix that now. On our X-ray mode, what we have to do is move our pieces into place. We're going to move this one. I'll see. Thank you. And those, and we're just going to drag them over here. And then we're going to do the same thing up here. We're just move these over. Thin out our neck a little. There's our neck. There's the start of the neck. That's how you're going to start your design. That's how you're going to get your model to have it. Okay, remember, we still have plenty of changes we have to make to this model, but we want to get the big pieces in. All right. There's the most of the body. She's looking good. If you're going to do boobs and breasts, that would be these 4 faces right here. Okay. If you're doing abs and pecs, that's these guys down here. Right? Or abs are down here, pecs are up there, boobs are up front. The same concept, insert face, add your loops as you need them. Okay.
What if I want to make the nuts?
I started this video with the fact that we make Ken dolls. There are none.
Right.
No, I know you weren't here for that, but that's the reason I want to let you know. 3D modelers make Ken dolls. We usually don't make any characters that have geometry there. Very rarely have I even seen it in game where a character would have geometry there to hold the armor up properly. But most of the time they're Ken dolls. All right, so let's talk head. I have 4 minutes to do a face, a head, a basic head. All right, I'm back in layout mode. I am creating a new object. I'm gonna go add, mesh, cube. Okay, we have a new cube here. It got made down there, but that's okay. I'm gonna call this head. I'm going to call this head properly. There we go. And then I'm going to go back into my editing and I'm going to move this guy up and over and up and in, and we're going to look at you and we're going to say, okay. X-ray on. I'm going to even you out. There we go. Go flat. I'm going to do my scale work just the same as I did with my character or with the torso. You literally can start with the head and work from the head down. You can start from the foot and go up. Oof, not yet. I'm gonna scale it this way. And just to get the proportions right, this side up, top, the chin, there we go. Go everything to the side. Oof, scale is way off here. Ooh, 3 minutes. We got this. We got this. Come in. Use my move tool. Move it back. Okay. Take this down ever so slightly. There's a little dip there in the back of the chin. Okay. All right. So this cube is about to become a head. Everybody ready for this? Okay. I'm going to do no other work here except for 1 or 2 things. I'm going to take all of my cube. I'm going to go to my modifiers. I'm going to add, generate here, a subdivision surface. Voila. Look at that. There's our head right there. I'm actually going to add 2 here so you can actually see the shape. And then
So,
I'm going to do my scale tool.
how does that work?
If I add a loop cut here, I'm almost there.
Oh.
Hold on. Hold on. I'm getting there. And then I move. This is subdivision surface. Subdivision surfacing is NURBS modeling or preview modeling. If you do preview modeling in Maya, that 3 key. There you go. And we're going to take these guys. What it is when you take a shape and you subdivide underneath it, you create. My move tool. This is the fastest way to create this, but this is the bad way to do it. You create something like this. A meshable, a kind of close to what you would do for sculpting, but not quite sculpting yet. Okay. And this is how I created it. All I did was a cube and I gave it 2, my modifier here, subdivision surface, I gave it 2 cuts, which took it from each face from 1 piece to 16. And it curves underneath the modifier. Okay. And all I did was add 1 extra edge loop here to create the shape.
That kind of makes sense. And again, I'm like, I don't have like that 3D modeler brain. I'd imagine like that make more sense if I was more into it.
Yeah. Well, normally I would do the face and I would make it and I would use the smooth tool, which is this guy over here. I would subdivide it and do smoothing where I wouldn't be using this subdivision. I would be using regular subdivision and move it all on my own. However, I had 3 minutes. This is what a head looks like. It literally starts out this simple, and you always do the head or the face as a separate piece. Okay, because the head and the faces have way more detail than the rest of the body. The body has detail. Don't get me wrong. But the head and the face has all the detail of what your character is. Okay, we carry everything about our personality in our face and how we walk. So the head has the most detail, is going to have the most polygons compared to the rest of the model. This is how you would do it. And then when you're done, you can just connect from here to there. If you haven't gone too far in your vertices, that's the reason why you make it this way, is just connect the two. Add a hole in the head, take the hole in the top of the neck, and you just bridge the two together, or you can just target weld the vertices together. There you go. Character model 101. Ugh. In less than an hour and a half. Yeah! Yeah, if you were to do this head model in Maya, it's the same as pressing the 2 key on the keyboard with a cube. This is modular, or this is NURBS modeling, or subdivision modeling here. This will stay like this until I apply the modifier in Blender, but in Maya you can choose between 1, 2, and 3 all the time. But this is the same as subdividing your model and then smoothing it out. Or in Maya, if you just use the smooth tool, it makes the same thing.
All right.
All right. Any?
I think someone said something.
I just said all right.
Oh, all right. Everyone's good? Everyone's good? All right. Last thing I'm going to tell you, and this is the worst thing I've done all day. Don't forget to save. Save and save often. I'm amazed that I haven't saved yet and it hasn't crashed. Save your work. Always save your work. There you go. That way you can always come back to it and save in iteration. It's very important. All right, I think I'm all done here. Thank you guys for coming and enjoying this tutorial.
Well, thank you
Fastest
for
in 3D
helping us
model.
out.
Please feel free. I know David recorded this. Feel free to take the recording and go at a slower pace. And enjoy your weekend.
Well, thank
You
you very
too.
much. You as well. And again, thanks for showing up over here and helping us out with this.
Of course. I'm glad to have helped.
All right.